Hello, and welcome to AskEd number 3. It's connected to my podcast of February 2022 about the Olmecs. Well, the first time I did this segment, we got 8 views. That second one, we got 55 views. So we're off to the races. It's becoming more popular. Good. Well, this time we had 4 questions, and let's get to them right now. Okay, question number 1 is from Nancy Bond, and Nancy writes, so many ancient peoples disappeared with the possibility of weather changes and migration. Now this is happening all over the world. Are there any lessons we can learn from these ancient civilizations that can help our present-day situation? Well, good question, Nancy. I'd say lessons? Probably so. Are we listening? Probably not. But let me answer that in a little more depth. Okay, well, in terms of weather-related crises that we could face as modern people, just like ancient ones did, there are certainly some things that we've done in modern times to protect ourselves. Things like 100-year floodplains and not letting people build in those. Certain coastal areas need to have houses that are up on a second story on stilts. We have regulations like this, definitely, and they help us. But in terms of these big climatic events that we see coming now and we could plan for, well, I think we're in a unique position in world history where you can't really say that the Romans or the people of Angkor, or especially the Peruvians that lived on the coast of Peru and got wiped out by big El Niños, those guys couldn't really see it coming. Nowadays, we have the technology to see that climate change is happening and that we should do something about it. Namely, as the oceans rise, we should probably move everyone off the coast. Now, this is something that the ancient world just couldn't see coming as a definite, and so they ended up piling along the coast and other places, just like we do today, because they're lovely places. Should we move people away? Absolutely. Are we going to do it? I doubt it, because of a number of factors, not the least of which is that people don't want to leave those areas. They are taking their chances, and we really can't stop them. So, did the ancients have things that we could learn to apply to our current crisis? Not really, because we're the first generation of humans that can really see it coming. The question is now, what are we going to do about it? Question number 2 is from Sergio Rosales Weibo, and he writes, Ed, I understand that you can date objects with carbon-14 if it's organic matter and not too old, with pottery, if styles are known, etc. But how do you date the Olmec stone heads? Great question. Here's the answer. How do we date stone? Well, the short answer is we don't. We can't date stone, at least not yet. So what archaeologists do is we look at the context of a stone object. We dig around it and underneath it, hopefully finding what's associated with it. Hopefully that's organics or a diagnostic artifact like a certain kind of potsherd that we can definitely connect to a time period. But that's the importance of finding things and recording them in context. When things get looted and taken away from their original spot, like let's say a piece of jade or a giant Olmec head, we've then lost the ability to find the associated artifact assemblage and hopefully through one of those objects date that stone object. So short answer, we can't. We only do it through the things that are around it, especially underneath a big head like a foundation. We could say, well, it was at least that old when the foundation was made that it was placed upon. Question number 3 from William Tucker. I noticed you mentioned a recent LiDAR survey of the Olmec heartland. Do you believe that LiDAR is as revolutionary as the mainstream and pop science press would have us believe insofar as Mesoamerican studies? Great question. Let's talk about it. Yes, I do think that LiDAR is revolutionary, or at least it's leading to a moment that's going to revolutionize the field. It's definitely something, the height of aerial photography analysis that we've been able to do yet. The trouble is that there's only a few companies making the equipment, and those same companies are the ones that provide the software to do the analysis and processing of the data that's collected from the equipment. And that means that everybody, archaeologists included, need to send that data to those companies to process in the ways that they want to use it. And that takes a lot of time, and it's very expensive because only a few can do it. When the technology changes and the cost of the equipment goes down, and more importantly, the software becomes more available for anyone, that's when we're going to really see LiDAR changing things. To me, it's really about the ability to strip away the trees and other noise and get to a point of resolution that we've never gotten to before. That's what LiDAR's doing for us. It used to be that we couldn't really discern a rectangular building of 2 meters in height versus just a natural limestone outcrop. But now the resolution of LiDAR, once processed, is giving us that ability. So yes, I think it really is a revolution. It hasn't quite happened yet, but we're on the way. Our fourth and final question is from Patty King, and Patty writes, "The colossal heads are wearing hats concealing hair or lack thereof. They don't have beards, and they don't seem to have matching colossal bodies. So how do we know they're all men? What do they have in common that identifies them as male?" Hey, great question, Patty. I really do think that from time to time we need to question even the fundamentals of what we think we know. So let's take a look at a little bit of this and see what the answer is. Could the Olmec colossal heads be women? Well, that's really a great question. First and foremost, because we really don't know much about what Olmec women looked like. I looked around for some good examples, thought about it in my head, and I really only know of two definite ones. Here they are up on the screen now. One of them is a little jade figurine of a woman with a pyrite mirror hanging as a necklace from her dress, from her neck, and you can see that she actually has hair. It's a weird kind of bowl cut, but there's definitely hair there. The other one is from La Venta, and it's a big basalt monument that was found there, and it's called the Grandmother. It's once again, it has hair, but it's a mohawk. That's one tough-looking grandma, if indeed it is a grandma. I think we identify that one as a female because she's holding some sort of komal in front of her, and food preparation was generally assigned to females in early Mesoamerican society, so I think that people believe that's a grandma handing some sort of food out. Now, look at the faces of both of them. Honestly, you're right. They're not that different than the male faces, or supposedly male faces, we see on the Olmec heads. Here's a picture of a collection of those heads from San Lorenzo. When I look at them and try to see, try to ask the question of whether they're male or female, you're right, it's hard. They are all wearing those helmets, but, they could have hair underneath there, and doesn't mean that they're male just because they're wearing helmets. I was looking at the cheekbones, and some of them have really high cheekbones, and some of them not so much. So, Patty, you have a really good point there. I think that we do not know for sure that all those Olmec heads are male, and, maybe one day we'll be able to answer that question, but not now. Fun of archaeology. Keep thinking about it. Okay, so that's a wrap for AskEd number 3. I hope you enjoyed that, and we got a couple more Patreons last month, so a few more people may be watching this for the first time. Hello if you are. I love doing these sort of things, but I know that you're here to support me and be part of my archaeology work, and I want to say a sincere thank you for your time and your support. I couldn't really be doing this without you, so thanks for letting me have a life that I enjoy. Until next month, this is Ed.